Thank you. We have a quorum, so this time I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Land Clearance Redevelopment Authority of the City of St. Louis on December 12, 2023 at 3 p.m. via Zoom. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Anderson, not present. Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Spencer.
Present.
And Chair McBride.
Present.
You have a quorum with 3 present and 1 absent.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take up approval of the minutes from our prior meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Spencer.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
And the minutes of the November 14, 2023 meeting are approved. Let's move on to resolution 23 LCRA 10829. Let me stop. Zach, do we have any, we're going to take it in order or we need to do anything with the guest present?
We'll just go straight down the agenda. So
very good. Then we'll take up 23 LCRA 10829 regarding Natural Bridge, North Grand, St. Louis Avenue development area.
Yes, thank you. This resolution is designating Tabernacle Community Development Corporation as developer for the redevelopment area named Natural Bridge, North Grand, St. Louis Avenue, North Van der Aaron redevelopment area. That redevelopment area was passed back in February 23rd, 2021 by ordinance 71331. This redevelopment plan allows for up to 25 years of tax abatement, 10 years at 95, followed by 15 at 50%. The Tabernacle CDC is proposing to build 63 for sale residential units and build 111 rental residential units for a cost of a little over $45 million. We have Katie and Cecilia from Steadfast to speak on the project. Also, we have Pastor Andre in the waiting room, not the waiting room, the Zoom waiting room. If we can possibly move him over.
Yes, let's please move Pastor Andre over.
Pastor Andre.
Is that all you have, Zach?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. While we're moving Pastor Andre over, then Katie and Cecilia, if you have any more color to add to this presentation, please.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you. Yeah, just, Tabernacle CDC has been very involved in the area, as you all know, continuously working on, new construction and infill development for family homes in the area. For this phase 1, they're actually looking at doing about 70% of those units are going to be rehab units and about 30 are going to be new construction, mainly single families in this phase as well.
And is the phase 1 the entirety of the 63 residential and 111 rental?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and so is phase 2 going to be within the same geographic area?
Phase 2 is a different geographic area.
Gotcha. Okay. And is this the
That's
same
the next
geographic...
resolution.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No. And is this the same area that I believe Pastor Andre is in front of us previously? Is this the same area that we previously spoke with him about? Okay, great. Anything else from Katie and Cecilia? Where are we on getting funding, capital stack, things of that nature?
We can go ahead and let Pastor Andre speak to where we are with capital stack. There's certainly a lot of momentum already being built there, and things are underway. The goal here with assigning TCDC as the master redeveloper is really to alleviate some of the administrative requirements of individual requests because of the volume that he's really charged with here. So Pastor Andre, do you want to talk a little bit about the capital stack?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I'll do my best to try and keep this brief. So from a capital stack standpoint, within this phase 1, you have separate projects happening, some of which are already currently going. Case in point, the 3,700 and the 3,600 blocks of Hebert are already underway. That includes a total of 15 of the new builds for sale and 12 rehabs for sale. Rough estimation of cost of about 10 million, of which that part of our capital stack has been completed by the revolving loan fund. We were one or two awardees back last December, as well as funding from a private family foundation, and then also funding from our own organization. In addition to that, we have right now 8 rental units under renovation in this footprint, all of which have been covered by private corporate philanthropy, family foundations, and small debt. And then the next big piece of this 3800 Liberty, we are working currently on the capital stack for it, which will consist of partially proceeds from our home sales from 3700 and 3600 Heber Street. We have the same family foundation that helped fund 3700 Heber will come a part of this. And then the remaining pieces of that capital stack involves a couple of our key long-term partners, one of them being Brace Back Family Foundation, and also some institutional funding that unfortunately I can't say the names just yet because it hasn't hit the public airwaves, but it involves patient capital to the tune of roughly about $20 million that then will allow us to finish out the rest of this phase and lead over into the second phase.
Very good. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Pastor Andre?
Pastor Andre, I have a couple. Number one, and I may have been writing some notes down when you addressed this, but on the ones that you've already been approved with the new market tax credits, this is separate from that. And I think there were 25 houses or so. But it is in still the same area. So this is kind of like phase 2 and phase 3 of the larger developments that you're trying to do.
Yes and no. Here's what I mean. That 27 is actually a part of that 63 on the for sale side new. It's 27 for sale.
Okay.
So it is included in this 63.
Okay, and that's already progressed more.
Yeah, that's already, yep.
That's great to hear. And then what about the other sites within this geographic area and your control? Are there other lots you're trying to go after? Are there LRA owned properties? Are there any LCRA owned properties? Tell us a little bit more about how you're approaching the rest of that phase 1.
Yeah, great question, Sean. So we are going after, I think it's roughly 26 lots from LRA for 3800 Liberty. Because everything else, with the exception of a couple of private owners, we already have ownership of.
Okay.
And then in terms of the rental units and the rehabs in this space, the majority of the vacant ones we already have purchased, whether it be private and or from LRA in the past. So we've been kind of banking those, and then as we raise capital, then working on those. So the bulk of the LRA lots will be going after though are on the 3800 block, because the rest of these blocks pretty much have residential units on them. Some of them are just vacant, and like I said, bulk of those we own. A couple of more private owners that we're trying to reach out to, but also it highlights the need for us in this ask, because there are a couple sprinkled in here who they're out of town, and quite frankly they just don't care. So, if it falls down, it falls down. And this would help us, kind of alleviate that issue.
Well, with this scale that you're talking about, one of the questions that comes to mind is the schools, and how, if you're building single family houses, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what school options are, and maybe if you've talked with SLPS, and just give us some more background, because that's going to be a really important part. I think that's the real main catalyst to continue that momentum up there, is if you have those school options.
Yes, so we have had some conversations with SLPS. We currently right now work with Navigate STL, which helps families plug into schools that are best for their kiddos. Okay. So I'll just go on the record and say, and if it's the elephant in the room, I'll let it out. And if it was already out there, and I'll just help it move more freely. We are, you know, what I would call yes to both public and private and charter. So right now in our footprint, for example, Sean, there are 5 charter schools that pick up daily kiddos in our area, in addition to some of the families who attend public school. And our public school and our footprint in the elementary level is Ashland, Yateman in the middle, and then it's a weird split between Vashon and Sumner in our space, but the majority of the high school students are Vashon students if they're in a public setting. So we just continue to endorse that relationship, because what we have found is that some families, they want to be SLPS and some families do not, and we don't get in that fight. We just resource them with what they need to find the best school for their kiddo. And that's how we want to continue to approach it and grow it. We fought hard to try and keep Farragut open a few years ago when it was on the chopping block, because we knew this was coming down the pipeline. We lost that fight, and that's when we pivoted and connected with Navigate STL to help us, because we knew, as you mentioned, it would become a challenge. And the last thing I'll say is we're in some early stage conversations, don't know where it will go, but in some early stage conversations with the YWCA, because ultimately we're trying to bring a child development center in the area or nearby that then would allow for those with smaller children to get that early childhood start that is so critical to the rest of their school years happening right in the neighborhood.
Thank you for all that background. And I also want to mention just, I think, you know, being in this business of community development, when you're thinking about how you sustain your operation long-term, I just think this approach with the for sale and the rental is very smart. And, you know, that's a way to create some ongoing revenue, do some renovations, but also be able to provide some diversity of housing within the neighborhood. So I really tip my cap to you for that.
Well, thank you, Sean. I told you we've learned from you all from afar, and believe it or not, one of the feedback points we've gotten from neighborhood residents is they want to see the diversity. They've told me flat out, Pastor, we don't want a neighborhood just full of low-income housing. We want diversity. We want a mix.
Thank you.
Outstanding. I think that helps everyone. Any other questions from the commissioners for Pastor Andre or the team? Hearing none. Oh. Is there any other speakers on this one, Zach?
No, sir.
Very good. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10829.
So moved. Request a previous role.
Do I have a second?
Did we lose Lenore?
Did we lose them all together?
I don't see him.
Did we lose them?
Looks like we lost them. So we need to, Mr. Meyer, we need to hold on until we take any further action, I assume.
You are stuck.
Mhm.
I'm calling.
We will hit pause.
Could be under K.
I just took a vote on the first resolution. It's showing. First vote.
Well, we haven't taken a vote on the first resolution.
Okay. He said he should be in just a second.
Thank you. Could you keep an eye on the
He's
visitor
there.
side? Okay, very
I'll
good.
mute yourself.
I'm back.
Hey, Kennard. A motion was made to approve resolution 23-10-829 with a request for previous roll.
Second.
We have a second. Previous roll has been properly requested and seconded. Is there any objection to that request? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, and we'll take up resolution 23 LCRA 10-830, also relating to Tabernacle Community Development Corporation.
Yes, sir. This is a sister or cousin, or what you want to call it, resolution of the previous one we just had. This resolution designating Tabernacle CDC as developer of the property located in the Penrose, North Grand, Kossuth. Hopefully I got that right, Linda. Fair Avenue redevelopment area. This ordinance was passed back in February 23rd, 2021 by ordinance 71314, which allowed for tax abatement for redevelopment for 10 years at 95, followed by 15 at 50%. This resolution has a typo on it, so I would like to amend the resolution where it states 63 units for residential, creates 63 for sale residential units. I would like to make that 75. And where it states 111 rental units, I would like to put 466 there. For the total cost of 191 million. So that would be the changes I would like to make to this resolution. But we're very excited about this development. This area has a little bit more vacancy than the area south of it, Fairgrounds Park. So we're very encouraged that Pastor Andre is tackling this area. So we have Katie and Cecilia to answer questions, and also Pastor Andre to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. And let's see, Katie and Cecilia, we'll start with you. Anything further to add to what Zach has presented?
The only thing I'd want to mention is that, obviously the same approach as phase one. This is going to see a lot more multifamily in this area as opposed to phase one is mostly single family. And we're looking at about 80% rehab, 20% new construction in this phase.
Very good. And Pastor Andre, do you have anything to add to the presentation that Mr. Wilson just made?
I would just add, as mentioned with capital stack, so part of that patient capital proceeds that we are securing spill over more so into this space. And our approach is to start near the intersection of North Grand and Kossuth and work our way down. We're currently working with a urban farmer in the area and the building commissioner on Lee, because there's several properties there vacant who have landlords who of course are owners who have not done anything. And so building commissioning team is enforcing some things that allow the city to have like the roofs and stuff like that done, and then charge the owner. And then we're working lock and step that once those things are done, then we'll step in and start rehabbing the inside of those around that urban form. So it creates a nice nucleus and core of nice affordable rental properties, and then spread down Kossuth to the end. Because when you get to Fair and Kossuth, that area is pretty stable in terms of single family housing. There are people who've been in those houses 30, 40 plus years, including some family friends of ours who live in that stretch. And so it makes for a nice blend, and it allows us to utilize drawing families to the park. And if I don't know if you guys know, but there's been a separate kind of drive and push now for the park as well, and a separate nonprofit forming to then start tackling the park. And we are a part of that founding of that in the sense of being in the early meetings so that we can make sure all the dots connect. So we'll start in one space and just spread down across. And as Zach mentioned, this will have a lot more and does have a lot more LRA property in it. So we'll be approaching LRA in this space. We've also have started acquiring and own properties in this space, including a couple of one commercial space as well that will kind of be like our home base across the park to then begin meeting and serving and doing the work out of.
Very good. Any questions for Pastor Andre and the team on this resolution? I mean, yeah, you're taking on a lot more vacancy, it looks like, and, you know, doubling the residential housing and then almost by a factor of 4.5, the rental units. So those are quite large undertakings, Pastor. I hope you have a good team around you to help you with all of this.
We do. And to that end, we have actually call it 3, what I call nuclear teams that operate in each of these spaces so that funding can flow continuously and work can happen simultaneously. Our process is to attack it all at the same time so that way you protect the investments. If you only do a little bit and walk away, you lose momentum and you lose the protection of the investment and the interest in the area. And we're trying to leverage the fact that we know the Greenway is coming and utilize that as a catalyst as well.
Very good. And is the amendment that Zach proposed, is that something we need to amend the resolution itself?
I don't think so.
Just the background.
Yeah, it's just the background.
That was my assumption. I want to make sure that the staff's on the same page with, I guess, the 3 of us. Zach, we don't need to, you're not anticipating we amend the resolution itself.
I'll look at that to our lawyer, David.
If you're changing the background, that's not necessary. It's if you're changing the substance at 1, 2, 3, 4 at the box, that's when you would need to do a new amendment.
Very good. And I think, very good. I think we're all in agreement then. Very good. So if there's no further questions and no further speakers on this resolution, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10-830.
So moved. Request for previous roll.
Second.
And properly moved and seconded with request for previous rolls or any objection to that request. Hearing and seeing none, motion passes and the resolution is approved. Congratulations and thank you all on this project. You're making good work in an area that needs it. So thank you so much. Very good. We're moving on to resolution 23 LCRA 10-831, amending the master redevelopment agreement for Gateway South redevelopment area. Zach, will you walk us through that, please?
Yes, sir. This resolution is approving a first amendment to the master redevelopment agreement among the LCRA and the Port and GSL STL Developer LLC. The initial master development agreement was entered in April 1st of 2023. This amendment would be revising the boundaries of phase 1 in the redevelopment area and also extending the deadline to acquire all property in phase 1 to an additional 6 months. Initial deadline was December 31st, 2023. And now the new deadline, if this resolution is approved, this amendment is approved, will be June 30th, 2024. I have Mark Spikeman, our outside counsel, who can answer questions on anything relating to the redevelopment agreement. Mike Fletcher from GSL on the call, and Doug from Steadfast on the call too, if you have any additional questions.
Very good. Well, before we get to Mr. Sparkman, let's talk to Doug Rasmussen and Mike Fletcher and see if they have anything to add and bring us up to date on where we are on this project.
Sure, thank you. And I have a short presentation. I don't know if it's possible for me to share my screen, but to walk you all through.
Sure. Linda and Janet, can we let Mr. Fletcher You've already started sharing the screen. Thank you.
I've got it. All right. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. To open, I just want to emphasize that our project is still on track and has gained some significant momentum since our team has last appeared before this body, including being awarded our full requested allocation for state historic tax credits less than a week ago. With that said, as our project has progressed, we have some slight modifications to our initial plans, and that's what we're here to discuss today. As currently contemplated by the master redevelopment.
Mike, if I could, if you could expand that slide, it's not terribly helpful for me. There we go.
Can you see the full thing?
I can see the numbers, which is what I'm more interested in. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so these are the properties that are currently contemplated by the master redevelopment agreement. This slide outlines what those phase one developments or phase one properties are. The properties listed in blue here are city and LRA owned properties that, if we acquire them, would be considered part of our phase one, but were originally excluded from the December 31st acquisition deadline. And then this is a slide summarizing our proposed changes. The first three properties, the 711, 719 South First, and 109 Cedar, what we're doing is we're proposing using the properties that are listed to the right of that as our initial parking. It would allow us to have more parking, almost 3 times as much parking for our initial phase one development to support the Crendon Martin building, which will be our the nucleus of our phase one and the nucleus of the overall master redevelopment agreement. I mean, of the master redevelopment area. The second, the 101 Shoto that we're requesting, this is essentially the move to move that to the 200 to 224 Lombard Street, which will help to benefit the activation of the site. The 200 to 224 Lombard Street building is closer to the Crendon Martin building, so it'll help reinvigorate the nucleus of our redevelopment area as one, instead of it being more spread out. And then finally, for the properties listed below the line here, we are requesting an extension of the current closing requirement to June 30th. We're in advanced talks and essentially just waiting for final approval from the CEO for a what we anticipate will be our anchor tenant. We can't, obviously nothing's been signed yet formally, so we can't speak to who that is, but it's a large publicly traded company that we are really excited about and anticipate that those talks will be come to a conclusion early next year. But with that said, based on that commitment timeline, we want to make sure that we acquire the correct properties for their location within the master redevelopment area. And so we are hoping to move back the acquisition dates. We're requesting to move back these acquisition dates to align with the finalization of that process with what we anticipate will be our anchor tenant. And then finally, this is just laying out what we are requesting to be our new phase one properties in the master redevelopment agreement. And that's, what is before you all today. And again, those properties listed in blue are the ones that we are proposing to remain. Those are the city and LRA owned properties that, if we acquire, will be part of our phase one. And we're actually, for the 757 South Second, we plan to acquire that by January 5th, I believe is the current agreement that we have with LRA regarding our acquisition of that site. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Very good. Do we have any questions for Mr. Fletcher? Does Mr. Rasmussen have anything to add? I assume not, but want to make sure.
Just a small comment, just to make
Okay.
sure everyone's aware, where it says closed, those are properties that the developer already owns. So just on Mike's slide there.
Very
Yeah.
good. So it's already acquired. Very
Yeah.
good.
Correct. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. I'm
Chairman
sorry.
Brad, just quick question.
Proceed.
Is, since congratulations on getting the historic preservation tax credits lined up. Are you planning on starting any of this work now that you have those credits in place, or are you waiting for other things to come in line before actual construction starts?
We're waiting for a few other things, namely our brownfield, because that needs to predate the actual construction of the building, the environmental remediation. But we anticipate getting started in the second quarter of next year, early second quarter next year.
And do you have any smaller tenants that you've identified as potential tenants down in that redevelopment area?
We do. We don't have, we have letters of intent, and we've been in communications with number of smaller tenants. So yes.
And there's a sit in place down there, or is that in the process?
Currently, there's no sit in place. That is a process that we anticipate beginning, soon after getting, probably before we begin construction, but soon in the new year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very good. And Mr. Sparkman, did you have anything to add to this presentation?
Sure, just a couple of things to Commissioner Spencer's point regarding the CID. They'll need to acquire the property in order to petition the city for the creation of the CID. So I assume once they get those other parcels closed on, they'll file that paperwork. And then, the purpose of this deadline in the original redevelopment agreement was to just show that the developer had accumulated or was going to accumulate a critical mass of properties in order to pursue development. And given the circumstances, I think an extension to do that is reasonable, and that critical mass is well on its way to being achieved.
Yeah, it looks like at least 5 properties have been acquired to date. Is that correct, Mr. Fletcher? Or are there even more that we're just not seeing on the spreadsheet?
There's even more that aren't reflected on this spreadsheet because they weren't or aren't slated to be part of our phase 1. I think we've acquired over 13 acres total down there that's closed on, and a number of others that are under contract or in negotiation. So yes, more than this 5 that's reflected on the screen.
Very good. Well, I think that's reasonable to get us additional time to work through these. So unless there are any further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10-831.
Request for previous roll.
Second.
Probably moved in second of previous role requested. Is there any objection to that request? Hearing none. Motion passes and the resolution is approved. Good luck, Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Moving on to resolution 23 LCRA 10-832 regarding the sale of 1401 Tower Grove. Miss Wright, are you going to walk us through that one?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So 1401 Tower Grove is the townhome in the process of doing construction of row houses. So there's at 1409 through 4320 Vista, that belongs to Corona Properties. So what they're saying is they're going into partnership with Corona Properties in order for them to, you see where it's at? In order for them to take the 1401 and go all the way down to row house apartments for rent. At this time, they do not own those properties from Croner. They said they're in the process of getting it together with their attorney. And one of the stipulations of closing would be for them to have their property in their name.
I see. Is
So they're
there,
offering $3,950 for their 1401 Tower Grove.
and so is this something that we look, is gonna be happening immediately, or is this gonna take a while for them to acquire these other properties that is?
My
contiguous?
understanding, it was gonna be happening immediately, but it hasn't happened yet. I don't know if they're having a problem with their attorneys or whatever, but it hasn't happened yet, because I checked it really this morning and it's still in Croner's name.
Gotcha. I think Mr.
Uh,
Wilson
so-
had something.
Yeah, to just be upfront with this whole property is highlighted in the picture lower left. The parcel is just a fraction of that, correct, Sonata?
Correct. It's just
Yes.
like a small corner of it.
Yes.
Oh, I
So
see.
it is not that whole parcel. Nothing can really be built on the lot that we currently own, so it's surrounded by another parcel. So that's the issue we're having with this.
Oh, so it's landlocked, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, it's not.
Was
It's on
highlighted
the corner.
was highlighted on the left, looks like the entire parcel they want along with that one parcel, because the parcel is not that big.
Oh, okay.
It's just, yeah, like, Commissioner Spencer said, it is the corner piece, but it's a very small piece of that whole area.
I see.
It's 3,000 square feet, but it's a linchpin to get the whole development completed.
Yeah, it's like 35 front feet, but it's what they need to complete the development that they're trying to do.
And Chairman McBride, we had this lot in front of us in 2021, and it was offered at 5,000, and then it went back, and then I think we passed it in December to sell it at $50,000, and Croner never closed on it at that point. So I'm not sure why the offer is so much lower after we had already agreed to a $50,000 price point. But I also think, there's other things to consider here. But that is a very valuable lot in a very valuable neighborhood. So I just want to make sure that we understand what we're providing to the developer to make this development a success.
Thank you. Do you have a response to Commissioner Spencer's question?
No, I'm just trying to see what is it that you're requesting us to do? Because this is as far as the assessors value in that neighborhood. That is what I have no idea why it went for so much prior to them, because it was being sold to Croner, they're trying to buy the property up for now. So at that time, I don't know why they offered it at that amount. But this time, the assessor's database and the prices of land everywhere have went down. This is what the standard price is in that area.
I disagree, and I think it's, between $15 and probably $30 a square foot, and it's a 3,000 square foot lot. What I'd recommend to this board, and I think this is about policy and procedure, that we need to get appraisals before we approve the sale of a property, because otherwise we're just going by a mass appraisal or somebody else's opinion or an offer. So I think that's probably the best approach, is to defer this and to get an appraisal and then look at our internal policies and figure out how we want to look at other offers for LCRA properties. That might be different for LCR or for LRA, but I do think for us and for me to be comfortable that we're doing our fiduciary duty, I think we need to have something that's in the file that says this is what that lot's worth. The other side of the discussion is maybe you sell it less because you want to get this development done, and maybe there's some negotiation there. But I do think you start with having an appraised value to be able to at least negotiate.
But you have every right to ask for that. If that's what you want to do, I mean, you want us to get the appraisal, and how long do you want us to defer it? Until like 2 months, 3 months?
I mean, I think you could probably
Until
get an
the appraisal
appraisal.
comes back, until the appraisal come back.
that would determine, yeah, when we could see it again.
Okay, that's fine with me.
How big is this lot though?
Well,
Three
like,
thousand square feet.
It's 3,010 square feet and it's like 35 by 100 and some.
There you go.
35 by 85.
Oh, yeah, we have. See that was CRA meeting.
see that Mr. Orr has his hand up. Let me recognize Rob.
Yeah, I was just gonna confirm, I'm looking at the assessor's data. Currently, it's 2,975 square feet, 35 by 85 foot lot.
Thank you. And I don't believe that we have a real estate policy that the LRA does, but we do not. Is that correct, Mr.
That's
Orr?
correct.
Or- Okay,
That's correct.
That's correct.
very good. Well, I see if there's no timing issues, then I don't see an issue in deferring this resolution so that an appraisal can be performed.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, we should probably then take up that as a motion. Would you like to? What motion would you like to propose, Commissioner Spencer, that we just defer until the appraisal was returned and then evaluate at that time?
I think that's probably the best action to take. I don't know if we need to end the resolution if we have, if we're not.
Well, I don't
voting
think
on
we
it.
have a resolution to amend because there's a price in it, but also I don't want to hamstring Ms. Wright and her negotiations
Right.
once her appraisal is returned.
Good question. I mean, we could go with the appraised value and that's what it's gonna be. I mean, that is just one approach.
Yeah, they need to.
And
I think you
Maybe
need
they
to actually
negotiate.
have the appraisal, I think you need to actually have the appraised value before you would approve that amount rather than just deferring to the appraisal. I would see if that was what you were suggesting. I'm not sure that's where you were going.
We can move to pass it to the next agenda past the time when the appraisal is got.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Well, so then I would recommend that we move to authorize Ms. Wright to obtain an appraisal on this property, and then we'll evaluate it at the next scheduled meeting.
After the appraisal.
After it's been received. In case they get them turned around for the holiday. And actually, yeah.
Very good. Is there a second? Mr. Rob, do you have a?
I was just gonna add that with the holidays, you're probably looking at least 6 weeks from now before we get an appraisal. So you're probably looking at the February meeting.
Okay, then whichever
By the time
meeting, whichever meeting follows the appraisal. So we authorize Ms. Wright to obtain an appraisal for this property, and then we'll evaluate the status of negotiations at the next scheduled meeting following her receipt of the appraisal.
Sounds good. I think that applies to the next couple of resolutions too.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, let's go ahead and vote on this one. Moved and seconded, then let's just go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
and Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
All right. And then, do we have any visitors for the next two resolutions, Mr. Wilson?
We have
Number 8.
we have a visitor for the item number 8.
Windsor Place.
Yes. But
Alright.
we can just go down agenda items. Because I think the one item number 8 is a little bit different because it's basically a nonprofit buying the land for nonprofit purposes.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to
number-
not take these things together. So yes, let's move
Right,
on
exactly.
to resolution 23 LCRA 10833.
Okay, this is Metropolitan Village Inc. It's a company who does residential redevelopment for affordable housing. They have this lot that they have been maintaining, that they would like to purchase so they can keep for one of their future developments. And they would like to, offer $1,000 on it based on the assessed valuation. The value of the property is 2306.
Very good.
Again, this picture shows 3 parcels. It's not just one parcel here.
Right.
So this
right.
is,
Larger than what the parcel is being conveyed.
correct, yes.
Gotcha. And Commissioner Spencer, is it your preference that this be handled the same way as the previous?
It is my preference.
Yeah, if you want to make a motion to adopt the procedure of the prior resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to take the procedure of the last resolution, please.
Second.
And let's do a roll call on this real quick.
Commissioner Spencer. Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Chair McBride,
Aye.
motion passes without voting yes.
All right, so, and then we'll take up the last resolution, 23 LCRA 10834 regarding the sale of Windsor Place. And we have visitors here on that one, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
This offer is from the Fisher House, and the Fisher House is like the Ronald McDonald House for veterans. They house, families that come in when their loved ones are in the VA hospital. They have one that's at Jefferson Barracks, and they want to buy this property to build one there. And once that is completed, they're going to turn it over to the VA to run perpetually. Did I say that right?
we got it, yeah, forever.
$16,400 for it.
Okay,
And they are here to speak.
Yes, yes.
we'll recognize you, Mr. Donahoe.
All right, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to meet with you today. And I am Jim Donahoe, and I'm the president of the Friends of Fisher House St. Louis, which is a 501c3 charitable organization. And with me are James Deering, our realtor, and Laura Newman Howe, our executive director. The VA plans to expand the downtown John Cochran Medical Facility, and the Keystone is building a huge new inpatient bed tower, which is shown here as an artist rendering.
I don't think they've shared the screen yet with us, so have you shared this? Can we share the screen?
Share their screen. Oh, they have it.
Now you have the option of doing so.
Okay, let me click on that. Okay. You can
We are
can you see-
seeing, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll make it a cleaner, oops, I will make it just the slideshow, so tidy it up. Very good, ready to go.
And the plan for the downtown John Cochran Medical Facility, in the expansion, this is the Keystone right here. It's building a huge new inpatient bed tower. And this will be 9 stories, 500,000 square feet, which faces Spring Avenue. There will also be 3 multi-story parking garages, a multi-story energy plant. And this is a massive project that will cost about $1.5 billion. Next slide. And so to accommodate the influx of new patients who will come here from 7 states, the VA wants another Fisher House similar to our Jefferson Barracks Fisher House, which is shown here. And Fisher houses are similar in concept to Ronald McDonald houses. And when families come here from an outside of a 50-mile radius, the families can stay in the Fisher House absolutely free of charge. And all Fisher houses are built only by donations, not with government funds. And the VA application for a second Fisher House must have a proposed site for construction of about 1.2 acres. And today the cost for a standard 16-bedroom suite house looking like this is $10 million. And we have to raise half of that money locally, which is $5 million. And we, the Friends of Fisher House, have also offered to acquire a building site that is large, quiet, and safe. And we would transfer that property to the VA when needed for the application process, which will be in about 5 years, my estimate. Next slide, please. And so on North Windsor Place, there are 4 vacant lots shown in the yellow box that belong to LCRA. And we would like to purchase these 4 lots as soon as possible. And when we have site control of these 4 lots, we intend to purchase the 2 adjacent lots to the east towards Spring Avenue. And those will be from a private owner. Next slide. And so when the VA is assured of funding for the John Cochran expansion project, we plan to purchase the private owner's remaining 3 lots to the south on Windsor Place, which also includes her 2-bedroom house. And this would become a parking lot for Fisher House guests, staff, and volunteers. At this point, if we cannot acquire the LCRA lots, then we have to revert to the Yateman lot, which is adjacent to the Powell Hall, and that will become the designated building site. If we have to use the Yateman lot, the Fisher House would occupy 60% of that lot for the next 50 years. And we would appreciate your positive consideration for our purchase, and thank you. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Are there any questions from Mr. Donahoe?
Just a couple. One of the things that stands out with these developments and assembling land, as you can see from our previous resolutions, how's the negotiations going with the private owner? And do you think that if you have to wait to purchase those lots to a later date, that the news of that $1 billion investment next door may impact the pricing there? That's the one obstacle I see, to getting this.
We have met with that private owner several times. We even have an agreed upon price. We're simply waiting for the lots on the north. And then we expected Congress to have already approved this. The House actually did approve the VA expansion project back in July. And now we're just waiting on the House to pass the 2024 budget. So we already have agreements with the private owner, verbal agreements.
Verbal, okay.
And how
like
large will the entire lot be once you acquire, if you were to acquire these properties plus the other private owner properties?
It will be approximately a little over 1.1 acres. And they asked for 1.2, but I'm sure that they'll approve the 1.1 acres. And on that slide, you can see the house on the north side of Windsor Place, and then the parking lot to be on the south side of Windsor Place.
And is that included in the 1.1 acres? The parking lot?
Yes, yes, it is. And that's a requirement of the Fisher House Foundation to have a dedicated parking lot.
Gotcha.
So we just need to reserve this place. Otherwise, we have to revert back to that Yateman lot, which is adjacent to the Powell Symphony Hall. And that is a terrible place to have a house.
Chairman, Brad, may I make a suggestion?
Please.
Would it be possible to just have an option with this organization so they can have the option for whatever time that they think that they need to assemble the rest of the project instead of purchasing it outright? Because it seems like there's still some questions on, being able to fully assemble the site for the future development. And it also backs up the previous resolutions that we wouldn't have to come back next month.
We could accept an option. We would prefer to buy, and we're ready to do that immediately, but we could accept an option And that would allow us to go ahead and purchase the lots from the private owner.
That would be my recommendation, but, you know,
there
Rob
any-
and anybody else from SLDC wants to chime in.
And on this slide where you see, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what an option does is give them time to come up with plans, budget and financing. And if
Right.
they're already ready, I don't feel like they need an option. If they already ready, I already seen the plans and the budget. And they just.
I
have
think the
financing.
option was for the plans for adjacent properties, but I
Right.
understand what you're saying, Ms. Wright. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And we do have the funding available now to make the purchase.
And if I can go ahead and speak to it, James Deering.
Please do.
The owner of the adjacent property is really just waiting for our commitment, and we are waiting on your commitment for the property. We just as soon buy it. We could take an option, but we are going to hard purchase her property. She's going to be relocating. We've had an agreement in place for some time, albeit a verbal. We are paying over market price and helping her with the relocation. So it's not a situation where we're displacing someone. She wishes to move out of town. We're paying above market value and allowing her the flexibility to move. And we do have those funds in the bank as well.
If the preference is to purchase, then I would make a motion to adopt the procedure of the previous resolution, get the appraisal on the property, and then have them come back next month for an actual vote.
I think you already have an appraisal. If I'm not
No.
mistaken.
I haven't, it wasn't part of my package.
That was the adjacent property.
No, it's this one.
Ms. Wright, do you recall seeing have an appraisal performed for the properties at issue in this resolution?
we don't have appraisal, we have a standard value.
I understand. Thank you.
Their standard price.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ms. Wright is correct. That is the standard pricing.
However, we are offering the standard pricing at full price and not asking for any discount on that.
The question in my mind is the standard pricing, and in my experience, that is not necessarily the market value. So that's the reason why we're going through this process.
Could
Go ahead. We've been working on this application for a number of months based upon your pricing and meeting that. So if the procedure is changing and we have to comply with that, then so be it. However, in good faith, we proceeded with this and offered full price based on your asking price.
I understand that.
But that works within any timing that you would have otherwise. And you're muted, Mr. Donahoe.
I'm sorry, I missed your comment, Mr. McBride.
Yes, thank you. Would that, if we were to have a appraisal performed, would that is there any deadlines that would do violence upon?
No, but if you have the appraisal done and we agree to pay the appraised price, we'd like to go ahead and proceed with the purchase.
Okay, I hear you. And by that time, will you be running on parallel tracks with the other private, or does this need to happen first, irrespective of any closing date, and then the private sales then follows?
I'll speak to that. Based on our initial timetable with the application for these lots, we had given the private owner a timetable wherein she could close on the property, which she needs to do, and have the money in order to buy the new home or just to relocate with those funds. Based on our timetable that we gave her, this would have already been completed if everything went according to schedule. This is just gonna further delay it, and as we know, any delays further anything can happen between that time. We have hesitated offering her a firm contract on that despite our agreed upon price and terms, because we are waiting for your commitment for the lots. We do not wish to buy her property, especially this long-term far away, without the commitment of the lots. Her property is worthless to us.
All right, so we have to go first, understood.
Yes, sir.
All right. Then Commissioner Spencer, would you like to make a motion at this time?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the procedure of the previous resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a roll call vote?
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
I'll abstain from this one. So the motion passes and we'll go
With
through
two voting yes and one abstention.
Very good. So we look forward to being back in touch with you once we get that appraisal performed.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anything in open agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, and I understand we have some items in executive session.
That is correct.
Then at this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session for the reasons set forth in sections. David?
It'll be section 610.021 pertaining to cause of actions or litigation or communications with attorneys.
Okay, so what link am I supposed to use?
Hey, is there a second? Or is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Spencer. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
And to answer your question, Commissioner Jones, it's a calendar invite. So it was sent via Gmail link to your calendar rather than an email. If that makes sense. At this time, I'm going to log off and join an executive session. Yeah, we just need a roll call and then.
For returning to regular session,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Spencer. Commissioner Spencer.
He's muted, but we'll recognize him as saying aye.
Commissioner Jones. And Chair McBride.
Aye. We're back in general session. Anything in open agenda?
No, sir.
Very good. Our next meeting is set for January 23, 2024. So happy holidays and happy new year. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Don't forget next week's meeting, special meeting on the 19th at 3.
Okay, that's right. Thank you. There's a special meeting for January 19th at 3. Thank you for that clarification.
December 19th.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.